All right, thank you so much for still being there. We told you earlier that we shall continue to look at the mood of the nation and how to douse the current tension, calm the young people venting their anger through the looting spree that we see across the country. Look beyond meeting the demands of NSAS and whether this is the right time to undertake restructuring. To embark on this conversation, we do have the President General of Ohanaeze, Ndigbo, Chief John Nnia Nwodo. He is a lawyer, economist, former Minister of Civil Aviation in the Second Republic, Minister of Information and Culture in the government of General Abdulsalami Abubakar, and he joins us via Zoom from Enugu. Good morning, sir, and good to have you join us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, it's good to have you, Chief Nwodo. We believe that you've been following recent developments in the country. It's almost a week now since the Lekki shooting in Lagos. I want to know what you make of that incident and the delayed release of CCTV footage for what transpired last Tuesday night. And also, let's get your reaction to the position of the presidency that President Muhammadu Buhari actually avoided going into that Lekki incident debate until all facts, of the case are established.
Well, first of all, I must thank the young men and women of Nigeria who took to the streets in a very disciplined, organized, peaceful manner to put forward their grievances about the aggression of the police arm called SARS. And in the process, highlighted a number of problems that they felt was bedeviling the country. I am disappointed that our nation did not seize the moment. Before these youths went on the streets, there was palpable dissatisfaction amongst the citizens. Everybody felt the insecurity in the country. Everybody felt the declining economic opportunities that we had in the country. Government admitted that we were going into a depression. Consequently, it was impossible to generate enough jobs for the teeming youths who needed to be employed. Standard of living was cascading downwards. And there was no reasonable governmental policy to attack the impending doom. Mm-hmm. These children came out in a very disciplined and responsible manner to put the matter before the table. Matthew, this is what we all did when we were in their age. When I was in the University of Ibadan in 1970, up to 75, I led student demonstrations as president of Students' Union, and I participated without being president of Students' Union. It was when General Gowon told us that 1976 was unrealistic. We took to the streets to tell him we must return the country to democracy. And our demonstration precipitated an internal military coup in which Gowon was flushed out. The mood of the nation does not approve of our present condition or the capacity of government to deal with it. I expected the head of state to seize the moment. No time in the history of our country, except during the war, have we had such misgivings in terms of our cohesion. Today, we are better reminded of our differences rather than our commonalities. There are serious ethnic divisions and suspicions up and down the country. We have been decapitated by ragtag Boko Haram, and the reliability of our armed forces have been put to question, given the continuous insurgency in spite of our military prowess and their ability to make nonsense of our security. We feel like a laughing stock in the continent. And one would have expected that our president in his broadcast would have seized the moment. Yes, he agreed to disband SARS and gave another name, but that's not enough. What did SARS do wrong? Who was responsible for this wrong? Now, These people should be brought to book. Now, admittedly, they have set up inquiries in states and in the federal government, but it's not enough. Who has been arrested? Does it mean there is no data bank of these infractions, in spite of the fact that many of them have been reported at police stations? Why are our services staying beyond the establishment rules and the laws of the land? They are civil servants who should retire at a particular age. Every judge retires at a particular age. Every permanent secretary, civil servant retires at a particular age.
Chief,
what gives the president the power?
Chief, sorry, if I may come in here, you actually acknowledge the fact that panels of inquiry have been set up to investigate the brutality against citizens. You also said that arrests have not been made. But what do you think that perhaps there's a need for us to, as a people, give government some time to be able to look into some of these issues? Because we heard the Lagos state government, in fact the governor, talk about how 4 police officers have been identified to the point that their names were reeled out. Do you think that there's a need for Nigerians to tarry a while to see how these panels of inquiry will pan out at the end of the day?
Madam, drastic situations require drastic responses. A number of things have happened in our country. People have been killed. There's a breakdown of law and order. Properties have been looted with reckless abandon. Speaking on behalf of my people, the Igbos, you know that of all the Nigerian ethnic groups, we are the most traveled. In every community in Nigeria, when you remove the indigenous community, the next most highest community there are Igbos. They don't just live there. They engage in verifiable business. They build homes. They build churches. They build schools. They build hospitals, which shows that if you're really looking for the average ethnic group that accepts Nigeria as a country, it is the Igbos, because they feel happy wherever they are and they invest there. And if you look at the history of Nigeria, no part of Nigeria has been accepted as the Igbos have been accepted in all parts of Nigeria. In northern Nigeria, there was a time that the Chief Okonkwo was a member of House of Chiefs in northern Nigeria. In Lagos, there was a time Bono Jike was Deputy Speaker. There was a time Azikiwe was leader in the Legislative Council. There was a time Zik almost became Premier of Western Nigeria. Of course, you could say that in Enugu, Ohanaeze Altini became mayor of Enugu. That was the time that Nigeria had unity. That is something we could go back to. Speaking for myself, I went to school in the University of Ibadan. I was elected in a Yoruba-dominated university as president of Students' Union. But right now, it's not the same. Look at the number of properties that are vandalized up and down Nigeria. Speaking for my people once again, in Lagos, they have lost millions of naira. There's a gentleman who is my friend who owns a company which is called Sims. In one day, his warehouse was vandalized and he lost 345 million and he's still losing. Who's going to pay for that? Lagos state government, insurance, or what? Whatever happens, this is decreasing our gross domestic product. It is leaving a lot of people unemployed. It is shaking the fabric of our nation and the confidence of people to feel comfortable wherever they are. What greater responsibility could government have than to deal with this query? I must commend Governor Sanyaolu. His speech yesterday was most reassuring. He described the character of Lagos as a center port of miscegenation of ethnic differences and religious differences, and gave the assurance that the government of Lagos State will protect everybody in Lagos. Is this speech percolating to the grassroots? Does everybody in Lagos feel comfortable now? Is looting still not going on? Can the federal government just fold its hands? Look at countries like Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, Yugoslavia. How did they implode? They imploded in exactly the same way as we are going today.
Chief Nwodo.
It is very important.
Chief Nwodo.
Yes.
If I may come in at this point, you served as a minister of civil aviation in the Second Republic. You also served during the short spell as a minister again during the short spell of retired General Abdulsalami Abubakar. You have been in government, and though now as President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, you have once served in government. Nigerians are wondering, or Nigerians would want to know, how the governments you served in address these issues of ethnic divisions, security challenges, police reforms, poverty, and economic reforms. How did those governments you served in address these issues, that are plaguing the nation at the moment?
Nothing of this magnitude occurred in Shagari's government. Nothing of this magnitude occurred in Abubakar's government. There is absolutely no reason to refer us to those eras. In those eras, there was not this kind of threat to national unity. Look, my friend, I became special assistant to President Shehu Shagari at 20 years. I enjoyed his close confidence. I wrote his draft of his speeches. I traveled with him to every part of the world and everywhere he went to in Nigeria. I had breakfast on the same table with him and his chief of staff and his ADC and his CSO every morning. I was secretary of the National Caucus. There was no sense of alienation that I suffered on account of my ethnic identity. So Vice President Alexei Kwame was extremely close to him. Every Monday there was a national caucus comprising of the president, of the national chairman, of the vice president, of 2 ministers, 2 special advisors, secretary to government, with me clashing for them. Nobody knew where you came from. Every major decision of government was decided in that caucus. It engendered unity. It engendered patriotism and a sense of belonging. Right now, people don't identify where decisions are coming from. The National Assembly appears to be just a rubber stamp. No matter of serious national importance have been debated in the National Assembly and has had patriotic approach to its debate. The people feel that there is no serious attention to the issues that divide us. Look, my friend, our present constitution was imposed on us by the military. We have had no civilian approach at looking at that constitution. It is obvious that that constitution has failed. It cannot unite us. It cannot develop us. In all indices of performance, government is at an abysmal low. We could do better. Look at our agriculture. Look at our power generation. Look at our quality of education. Look at our infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of ports, sea navigation. They are abysmally low. Only a few years ago, Rwanda was a beneficiary of the Nigerian fund in the African Development Bank. Today, it has a better per capita income and better development than Nigeria because government is too aloof from the people. We've got to restructure this country in order to engender unity, progress, and prosperity.
Chief Nwodo, before we talk about restructuring the country with you, just give us a quick, what's your reaction to attempts to give ethnic coloration to the protest we saw across the country, and of course diluting to the point that we saw, just as you said earlier, attack on businesses belonging to the Igbo people, as well as IPOB calling for the destruction of Yoruba assets in Lagos State. We saw all of this pan out during the chaos and destruction.
Well, I haven't heard IPOB specifically call for destruction of Yoruba property, but I've had IPOB make very incendiary and provocative language, and I have disassociated the Igbos and Ohanaeze from it. It is regrettable that in spite of this, their language remains incendiary. I want to assure you that majority of Igbos do not share with this. This is not our culture. And it is unthinkable that any Igbo man should be firing a salvo of disaffection in Nigeria with the gamut of our investment in other parts of Nigeria. That is not possible. I am disappointed that a gentleman in London of Yoruba origin has been fanning embers of disunity. I equally disassociate Yorubas from this because the Yorubas I work with in Afghanistan have boldly disassociated themselves from it. The Yoruba governors only yesterday disassociated themselves from it. The Lagos State governor did the same. The Southeast governors have also disassociated themselves from the pronouncements of IPOB in relation to the issue that we are discussing. So I don't see any reason why they should play a pivotal role now, since the leaders of both the Yorubas and the Igbos have disassociated themselves from this. There have been minor skirmishes in Kano, in Jos, some other parts of northern Nigeria. But I want to salute the leadership in those areas because I have engaged them. I have spoken to the parents of the Emir of Kano. Our governors have spoken to the governor of Kano, as well as the governor of Plateau. And I am very sure that working amongst themselves as governors, they are doing everything in their power to ensure that we do not allow these inflamed passions to lead to further destruction of property of innocent Nigerians who are no party to this conflagration.
Chief Nwodo, Lagos alone has reported a loss of about 3 trillion naira in the wake of recent attacks. Lagos alone reporting 3 trillion naira loss in the wake of recent attacks. This poses lots of economic. It has a lot of economic
Chief,
implications.
we can hear you clearly. Can you hear us?
Chief, can you hear us?
Are you there?
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
We may have to reconnect with Chief. Obviously, he cannot hear us, even though we can hear him loud and clear. We'll
All right,
reconnect
Chief,
with him.
you may also need to check your system and see if you can unmute yourself.
Unfortunately,
Okay,
Chief cannot hear us. So
right.
we'll take a quick break, and when we return, hopefully, we'll be able to talk to him. Paying attention.
We're in this together. So Clean Protect, the antibacterial detergent that removes 99.9% germs. Cleans, because germ-free clean is the real clean that we all need. Do your best to protect your family. So Clean Protect.
All right, it appears we have sorted out the connection issue with Chief Nwodo. Thanks for still being there with us, Chief Nwodo. Can you hear us now? All right, I was asking what the economic implications, are, as a result of the attacks we've witnessed in parts of the country. Lagos alone is reporting a loss, of about 3 trillion naira.
Yes.
Yeah, so what are the economic implications, of these attacks we've witnessed in the last few days?
It is going to lead to further depression in the economy. the volume of economic transactions that go on in Lagos means that the volume of taxation that we raise from it is high. It means that the volume of profits that we garner from it is high. It means that the volume of employment is high. But when this is affected, there is a consequential decline in all these factors. And don't forget that whatever growth you experience in Lagos must have a linkage effect on the rest of Nigeria, given the very serious velocity of movement and activity between Lagos and the rest of Nigeria. So what has happened in Lagos is critical to our economy. I expect that the federal government should have reacted to it. By now, we should have been having a census of all those who suffered serious losses as a result of this breakthrough. And government should deliberately assist them in coming back to production, because it will help the health of the economy. This lull, this quietness, this indifference is dangerous.
Okay, Chief, let me take you back to what you said about, your group like yours, dissociating yourself from the comments of the leader of IPOB, and of course the leadership of the Yoruba community also dissociating themselves from incendiary remarks. But how far-reaching is your intervention in some of these ethnic sentiments being expressed by people across the country? Have you been able to intervene to the extent that people understand the fact that this particular agitation, the NSAS agitation, has no ethnic coloration, but geared towards reforming the police and of course entrenching good governance? How far-reaching has your intervention been to appeal to the sentiments of the people?
Well, in the past few days, there's been relative calm where I am. You must know that the NSAS protest came at a time that there was inflamed passions amongst the youths in the whole of Nigeria. Look, at the age these young graduates are, we had reasonable employment in our time. We had a future. Right now, their second name is despondency. The quality of education has gone terribly low. The job opportunities are very few, and those that are available, there's no transparency in the recruitment. You've got to know somebody very important in government to get a federal government appointment. The private sector is not growing at a rate that it could absorb a number of these young men and women in professions that they have studied so hard for. There is despondency amongst them. Consequently, once there is such a public uprising as we have had, it is likely to throw up a number of individuals who are using the opportunity to ventilate their aggression against the system. That aggression, if not curtailed by a good societal organization like strong institutions like local leadership, police, and what have you, is likely to explode the way it has exploded now. And the only way to get it stopped is by effective government address of the issues that have been raised. Why is our first school living certificate worthless? Why is WAEC worthless and reading with all kinds of cheating? Why is it that a university degree does not mean literacy? Why is job unavailable for the young man? Why does every Nigerian have to be reminded of his ethnic origin? Talking about people from my part of the country, the anger is worse when you go through the highways of the southeast. It is worse when you see our gas piped from Imo State to Kano to North Africa and eventually to Europe without any of it reticulating around our area. Why is it that they won't be angry if they see rail lines being developed in other parts of Nigeria and our own is neglected? these are grudges that make the impact of this fallout worse in the Southeast than anywhere else. So the young people here are angry, very rightfully so. They feel marginalized by the government of Nigeria. This is not just in the Southeast, but it's almost entirely in the whole of southern Nigeria. Because it is a government of who you know and where you come from.
All right, Chief.
Why we're saying restructure the country.
All right, Chief. You know, signs of divisions and mutual suspicions have been there in this country for a very long time. What urgent steps do you think the country should take, you know, to forge national unity and cohesion? What urgent steps do you think should be taken, and who should drive that process?
I think the head of state should convoke a conference of representatives of all ethnic nationalities in this country to agree on a formula for restructuring of the federation and put measures in place to legislate on their agreements and put to rest the question about the system of government that we have, that will derive its authority from the voice of the people, not from a military constitution. Without that issue, you will never stem the degree of dissatisfaction that you find running up and down the country. And right now, it is obvious that from the Northern Elders Forum, the Southern and Middle Belt Leadership Forum, we have such a consensus. I would expect government to run away with it. If the leaders of all the ethnic groups in this country already have a consensus on the way to move forward, encourage them to come together and agree on it. Difficult situations require drastic solutions, and they must be urgent, timely. Without doing so, you cannot reassure the rank and file of our youth that the elders are thinking about them. What we are talking about is to have a more efficient government. Look at the omnibus National Assembly with all the salaries that you pay there that yields nothing in terms of the quality of legislation or the quality of service rendered, and oversight functions to ensure that there is compliance with appropriation. We just were told the other day about the NDDC probe. It's virtually ended. Hasn't the judge finished his investigation? Who is being prosecuted? Who has been fired? If you were a young man, how would you feel? The young people of this country do not see the responsiveness of government. It must be timely, it must be urgent, it must be sensitive. It must show that government has a human face. This we are not seeing now. If anything, we are playing around on our ethnic differences, which is nothing whatsoever compared to the gross economic difficulties that we are going through and the lack of responsiveness of government.
Okay, I'm just wondering, you're advocating a convocation of, you know, a national conference and perhaps a constitutional review, but we've had similar conferences in the past, the latest being the 2014 National Conference. Are there no recommendations in that report that can be implemented or can be reviewed by the National Assembly to suit the demands of the people?
Of course there are. Look, the fact that you tried before and failed doesn't mean you shouldn't try again. When you want to make babies with your husband, the fact that you tried before doesn't mean you shouldn't try again, because the second trial may just be very successful. Secondly, there is a body of demand of conclusions reached by leaders of this country during the tenure of President Goodluck Jonathan. It has been lying on completely forgotten. And so much resources was spent in terms of convoking this conference and making sure that they came to a conclusion. It's been thrown away. The people of this country want a revisitation. They want a revisitation to those issues. That is the only way we can go forward. We can't just forget what happened in the past because it is lying somewhere in a cooler.
Very quickly, Chief. Very quickly.
We need to go back to the drawing board.
Very quickly, Chief Nwodo, before we wrap up this conversation. What's your own prescription or definition of restructuring? Are you advocating, the entrenchment of federalism in a true sense of it, or we should revisit or go back to the regional structure?
You already answered the question. You can't answer Federal Republic of Nigeria and have a unitary system of government. It's an aberration. In political lexicography, it does not exist. Secondly, it is not working. Now, people of Nigeria cannot donate sovereignty of their natural resources to an amorphous federal government that is so remote from them. It's not on. The things that unite us are destroyed by the kind of system that the army imposed on us, which we are operating. We've got to go back to what our forefathers agreed. Look, when we say this, people think it is because oil is in the south. Far from it. Oil is the receding resource today in the world. The growing resource is agriculture. Look at Netherlands. I've said it times without number. It is the largest exporter of food in the country. And Netherlands is half of Niger State in geographical area. But because it has greenhouses, it is able to bring more area into cultivation in skyscrapers of greenhouses. And that is why it exports more food and gets more national revenue from just dairy and vegetables than we get from oil. In 1 year, it gets $100 billion just from export of food. Northern Nigeria has the greatest endowment of agriculture of any part of this country.
Chief, just before we let you go.
Agriculture in Northern Nigeria, nobody will be opposing restructuring.
All right, Chief, I wanted you to respond to what Elder Statesman Tanko Yaka said about the unity of the country. He said, right from 1953, rioting to date, the North hardly participates in any anti-Nigeria activities because of their commitment to the unity of Nigeria. Anti-Nigeria sentiment is more widespread in Southwest than even in the Southeast. How do we convene a national conference with these, this divided mindset? There seem to be a different mindset amongst elder statesmen like you in the different regions of the country.
Let me tell you, the leadership of the country at any point in time promotes the national interests. The North has been preponderantly in leadership of Nigeria than any part of the country. So if we've been divided, it must be the rhetoric that has come from the leadership of the North. You see, look, people want to feel that someone is their leader irrespective of where he comes from. I work for Shehu Shagari, and I have the highest regard for Shehu Shagari. I was like a son to him. He groomed me. I worked with Abdul Salam Abubakar. I am still very close friends with Abdul Salam Abubakar. He respected my counsel, and I respected his paternal disposition to governance. And I, in thinking about him, I never believed one day where he comes from. Okay. Now, this is the kind of culture we want to engender, so that you assess people on the basis of their personal reputation and character rather than where they come from.
All right, Chief. Chief, we have to let you go now. President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Chief John Nnia Nwodo. He's a lawyer, economist, former Minister of Civil Aviation in the Second Republic, Minister of Information and Culture in the government of General Abdulsalam Abubakar. Thank you so much for your perspective always.
Thank you for having me in spite of the hiccups.
All right.